Welcome everybody to 7 rules on how to buy your first C4 Corvette. You may have seen the video that I made about C3s, and now I have a pair of C4s to show you the basic things to look for when buying your first C4. Now, I want to make this clear, this is on buying basically your normal C4s. I'm not going to talk about Callaway C4s, ZR1 C4s, pace cars, Grand Sports, anything like that. It's just going to be your basic 84 to 96 run-of-the-mill C4. So the first rule and the second rule are actually the same as whenever you buy a C3. The first one is, no matter what condition you buy, no matter how much money you spend on a C4, it will need work. There's no such thing as a perfect C4. There's no such thing as a C4 that mechanically is 1000%. Okay, so you will have to put money into the car eventually. The cars, I mean, the newest one is from 1996, so that makes it, almost 20 years old. And then 1984, that's even older. So the second rule is never buy a Corvette without looking at it in person. It's really easy just to jump on eBay or jump on Craigslist, buy that car sight unseen, and by the time you get it home, it's not what you expected. Having eyes on it in person is 1,000 times better than relying on internet pictures. Most of these cars look better in pictures than they actually are in real life, so buy something local. Rule number 3 is also very simple. Buy the C4 that you want. It makes no sense to buy a C4 and then think, oh, I really wish I would have bought one that has a 6-speed. Oh, I really wish I would have bought that convertible. I really wish I would have bought that anniversary edition. Buy what you want. So if you're buying a C4 to keep for a long time for yourself, make a list of the stuff you want. For example, my dream C4, in my opinion, the epitome of a C4, is a 96 anniversary edition convertible with red interior, a 6-speed, and an LT4 motor. So obviously that's not what I bought, but those are hard to find. Alright, the next rule is familiarize yourself with the different generations of the C4 Corvette. So there's a lot of differences between the beginning and the end. So you need to know what an early C4 looks like versus a late C4. Also, you need to decide if you want a custom C4 or if you want a 100% bone stock factory built C4. Another thing is, which engine do you want? There's 4 that we could talk about. There's the L98, the LT1, the LT4, and then the ZR1 engine, if that's what you want. Also, you need to decide if you want a coupe versus a convertible. There's actually a very big difference in these two cars, especially when it comes to price. Next, do you want an automatic? Do you want a manual? Do you want a 4-speed? Do you want a 6-speed? Which one do you want? And then last, which interior style appeals to you? Do you like the early C4 Corvette interior, or do you like the late C4 Corvette interior? Now we're going to go through each one of these and kind of give you guys an example on which is which, so that way you can make a better decision on what you want to buy. Alright, my 1985 Corvette would be a perfect example of what an early C4 body looks like. So you see the molding all the way around the middle of the car. That's very typical for an early C4. They were always black. So if you see one that's painted, you know that they did a crappy job and they didn't take it off. It's supposed to be black. But the main characteristics of the early C4s are that beltline trim. They have a rear bumper that kind of has an inward curve versus the later ones that have an outward curve. And also, if you go to the front of the car, you can see that the front is a little different than the later ones. This car over here, which is a 1990, is kind of like the 73 of C4s. So it has the outside as the older style, but the inside is the newer style. But we won't talk about that yet. That's coming a little bit later. So here's another view of the older style body and how it looks. Let me go ahead and give you guys a view of the newer style Corvette and the way that looks versus the older one. Alright, this motor right here is the L98 motor. So C4s had five different motors that you could get in them. First year in 1984 they had what was called the L83 crossfire injection motor. I don't have an 84 to show you guys what that looks like, but here's a real quick picture. As you can tell, that square air cleaner on the top of the engine is how you tell between an 84 and what I have, which is an 85. What we're looking at right now is the L98 motor. It's tune port injected. So you can see it says right on the top right there, tune port injected. Now, they did this motor from 1985 all the way until 1991, and it's very easy to tell if you have the tune port because you have these intake runners right here on both sides. It's a great motor. I mean, most of the C4s that I have had this engine.
This next engine is what you call the LT1 engine. So this engine they put in from 1992 to 1996, and this is basically the most common engine that you are going to find in the later C4s. Now, we won't go into the aspects about what's different, but this is a picture of one so that you know what you're looking at when you go look at a C4. This engine is what you call an LT4 engine. This was only offered in 1996, and basically what it is a hopped up version of the LT1. Instead of a 300 horsepower motor, it was a 330 horse. The real reason behind this motor was to get people to buy 1996 Corvettes, even though they knew the C5 was coming the next year. I think it's cool because it wasn't made in all of the 1996 Corvettes. It was only made for the 1996 Corvettes with a 6-speed. So that you know what it looks like, this is the LT5 motor that came in the ZR1 Corvettes. Basically, it's a huge hopped up motor that they shoehorned under the hood of these C4s. I'm not going to go into very many details about it because this video isn't about the ZR1, but you do need to know what it looks like.
Alright, the next more obvious thing that you have to decide whether you want is that if you want a coupe or if you want a convertible. So, interesting thing, there actually are more costs associated with getting a convertible. For example, you'll pay more for it. Usually they demand a little bit more money. I'd say between 15 and 20% depending on what year it is. Also, if you have to get your top redone, that's a lot more expensive than you think it's going to be because you need a top, you need a weather stripping, you need someone to put it on for you, whereas a coupe, you don't. Another thing you need to decide is which interior speaks to you. So 84 to 89 had an interior that looked like this. So some key components to this interior are the bread box on the far right side. Instead of airbags, that's what they had to hit your head on. And then also you have this digi dash. So when you consider what was popular back in the mid to late 80s, this would have fit right in. If you look at all the other GM cars and cars of that era, everything was very boxy, everything was very digital, and that was an 80s interior. So right now it does look very, very dated, but it maybe one day it'll come back into style. But what you need to decide is whether you like this interior or this one. As you can see, the 90 to 96 interior looks just a little bit different than the earlier interior. Now these interiors do vary depending on the year. The steering wheel changed a little bit, airbag placement, in addition, all that kind of stuff. But and the style of the seats changed somewhat year to year. But basically, this is what a general view of what it does look like. So, a little bit more modern, a little less crazy 80s, but you have to decide which one you want. And each interior has its own different quirks, different problems that they can have depending on the amount of electronics they put in it. For 84 to 88 Corvettes, you had a choice of an automatic or what they call a Doug Nash 4+3 standard transmission. So you have 4 normal gears that you can shift through, and then on second, third, and fourth you have this button where you can turn on your overdrive or turn off your overdrive. So technically it was a 7-speed, technically. So you have to decide whether you want this or if you want the 89 and up cars, which was a 6-speed. This is a fun transmission to drive, but sometimes I feel like I need an extra gear, and that's where the 6-speed comes in. And here's the 6-speed transmission that came in the 89 and up cars. So what you really need to decide when it comes to automatic versus 4-speed versus 6-speed is you need to go and drive them all and decide which one you like best. To me, I think that automatic cars are better for driving in town. but I think that stick shifts are much more fun to drive out of all of them. Alright, once you've decided what kind of Corvette you want, which options you want, what style you want, then you can actually go out and look at Corvettes. Once you've found a Corvette that you're really interested in, don't pull the trigger so fast. There's a couple things you need to do before you buy. First is going to be check the VIN number that's going to be on your windshield. Okay, all the Corvettes have the VIN number right here, and you can see it through the windshield. So you need to make sure that VIN matches the title. The other thing is this VIN will tell you how the car originally came, if it's a coupe or convertible, that kind of thing. Also, you need to run a Carfax. It's $40, but I mean, if the car's been in a flood or is a salvage title, it's good to know before you buy. Not every seller will tell you up front that their car is a salvage title, so you just need to make sure. The second thing you need to do is you need to look underneath this center console lid, okay? There are codes here called RPO codes. So basically what this sticker is this is what the factory used to build this car, okay? So every code means something special. Is basically an option that your car came with. So if we decoded these codes, it would say this car is a convertible, it's a 90, it's white, it has a 6-speed, it has a red interior, that kind of thing. It can tell you if you have the upgraded suspension or not. It's really neat. So most C4s, the codes are underneath this panel right here. On the early C4s, which I believe will probably be all the early interior C4s, I'm not really sure, but I know that some of them have this RPO code sticker back here underneath the rear hatch. Okay, so one thing that you want to do is if the seller is claiming that, you know, the car has a special option or special something like that, make sure the VIN on here matches the VIN that's on the windshield, and that way you'll know for sure, yes, this car came with the Z51 suspension package that I wanted. When you find a C4 Corvette that you're really interested in buying, one thing that I like to do before I buy it is make a list of all the things that you know off the bat that it needs. And the reason why is because C4 parts, mechanically, they're pretty easy and, you know, they're not that expensive, but when it comes to interiors and weather stripping and paint, they can be ridiculous amounts of money to fix. So make sure you know the cost of these things before going in. Look up how much seat covers cost in foam. You'll be surprised. Look up how much weather stripping costs for a car. You'll be surprised. The next thing you need to know is about the Vehicle Anti-Theft Security System, or VATS, okay? Basically what it is the 90s crappy computerized anti-theft system that they put into the 86 and up cars, and it's caused lots of people lots of trouble. It can shut off your fuel injectors, it can shut off your starter and leave you stranded. There are ways to bypass it, and if you go to this website, you'll be able to find basically how to disable the system in your car. It's something every C4 owner needs to know about, and it's something that you need to know about, because if you don't, well, guess what? You're going to get stranded. That's actually the reason why I bought my car, which is an 85, because guess what? It doesn't have it. 84 and 85 don't have vehicle anti-theft systems, so you never have to worry about it. It will always start for you. Once you've found the car that you want, and all the numbers check out, and it's exactly what you want, next comes a test drive, okay? So you have to drive the car before you buy it. That's why I don't like buying sight unseen, because there's a lot of things that you can't tell from pictures. So a good rule of thumb that I like to do on C4s is make sure you push every single button in the inside while you drive it, or before you drive it. Make sure the locks work, the windows work, the mirrors work, the headlights work, the fog lights work. Make sure all your displays and all your gauges inside here work. Make sure your horn works. These buttons control the engine metering that's in this display in the middle. Make sure all that works. Make sure all your AC system works, your radio, and what doesn't work, make sure that you figure out how to fix, because eventually you're going to want to fix it. Now, this rule goes the same for the early cars. Push all the buttons. Make sure they work. When you're driving it, make sure it doesn't overheat. Make sure it stops straight and well. Make sure it shifts like it's supposed to, and make sure there's no noises or anything like that coming from the engine. Last but not least, the market for C4s is a buyer's market. They made thousands of these cars, okay? And these cars are very, very easy to buy, but they're not necessarily easy to sell, okay? Since the C7 came out, I've seen prices on C4s basically tank, okay? You can get a really, really nice, low mileage, newer model for around 10 grand. Cars like this, they should be around $5,000 or $6,000. So for the money that you spend, you can get a really, really good car. Take your time looking for them. Buy the one you want and buy the best one that you can buy. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to buy your first C4 Corvette. And I hope that it helps you out and that you find a really cool one. So keep looking, take your time, and thanks for watching. Welcome everybody to 7 rules on how to buy your first... I already messed up the first line.
It's okay. Cut.
Again, try to buy the best C4 that you can with the money that you have.
That guy flying in freaking circles?
I think you just need to do that one again because there was something going on back here. That door opened. The helicopter. He probably
How
is.
slow it goes.
Go ahead. Dump truck. Trash truck. Oh, don't know if it's coming around or not. Focus, camera, focus.
You shouldn't have to focus it. It should do it by itself. Push the top button.
Here we go.
4 different motors that we're going to talk about.
Dump truck. You missed it?
What was this guy doing?
Looking at our Corvette. He said something about a Corvette. Can we just do the whole thing again?